A summer reading lesson is a nice chance to start off the year with a creative tone, while also crafting some of the norms you want to establish. For today's Plan My Lesson series episode, I'm answering requests from two different teachers in search of a back-to-school lesson on summer reading. One teacher's class will have read Scythe, another's The Hunger Games. Both are interested in reviewing the basics of literature as a springboard into the year. So how can we capture students' interest, review some key basics like symbol, theme, and the hero's journey, give students a chance to show their understanding of the text, and establish a positive, creative tone for the year in a class period? Let's give it a shot together. One of my teacher requesters today is teaching on a block schedule, so we're going to go ahead and plan a longer period. If you're not teaching on a block schedule, feel free to split this plan over 2 class periods. Welcome to the Spark Creativity Teacher Podcast, a podcast for English teachers looking for more creativity, more engagement, more joy, and no more scripted curriculum, lesson planning ruts, or boring book lists. I'm Betsy Potash, and I'm honored you're trusting me to help. You're not alone on this creative journey anymore. As usual, I suggest you project your agenda on the board or write it up on your whiteboard with an approximate time window for each part of class. Cut down on questions before they start with this simple scaffold that helps students stay on track. For your attendance question today, you might consider something lighthearted related to the summer reading. Like in this case, for the teacher teaching the Hunger Games, are you Team PETA or Team Gale? Now that you've kind of got students settled in their seats, it's time to introduce the project for the day. Let them know they're going to be choosing a character from their book and working on a project called the Open Mind for that character in class. This is one of my go-to fun projects for characterization, and I think it's a great entryway into the school year. I would suggest you start by showcasing some examples of an open mind. If you've never done this project before, I'm providing several examples in the show notes over at nowsparkcreativity.com. I've got one for Katniss from The Hunger Games, one for Gatsby, and one for Will from Long Way Down. At this point, you might also want to give out your requirements for the project and give students a little time to look them over, but not actually start on the project. Now, if you're new to the Open Mind project, this is something I created for the Lighthouse. It's in there under projects for any novel, but you can also create your own. The idea is that students will showcase what's going on for a main character. So on their template, they've got kind of a silhouette of a person's head, and it's blank inside, and then it's kind of sectioned off around their profile. Inside the character's head, they're going to use adjectives, quotations, descriptors, and imagery, intentional color choices to show who the character is, what they want, how they change throughout the course of the book, etc. Outside the character's head, they're going to choose something for each section. So I generally section off the paper into 3. You could do more. They're going to showcase key relationships, key events, settings in the character's life. So it's like outside the head, that's influences. Inside the head, that's what they're feeling. That's what the world of the book for them is like from inside. And then overall, you want to reinforce the fact that they want to be combining the visual and the verbal to tell their story here. So they want to try to use size of text and imagery. They want to try to use color. They want to try to use placement of ideas and images intentionally to help show their analysis across both their words and their imagery and really bring it all to life. Now, in this case, because our teacher requesters want to review certain key aspects of literature through this lesson, I would incorporate that into the requirements of the Open Mind. Ask students to include, for example, at least one symbol, at least one theme, at least 3 parts of the hero's journey, or whatever it is that you're trying to review in your summer reading lesson. Just include them in the project. I would also define them on the assignment sheet. So if you feel like students have maybe lost track of what a symbol is over the summer, or maybe they never knew, Add that to your task so that the students who already know, fine, they're confident. The students who don't know yet can review it. They can look back at the definition. We're also going to talk about it in this lesson a little bit before they get started. But still, I would put it on the assignment sheet for that quick reference. Now, in the next part of the lesson, we're going to take the time to briefly review whatever those key ideas are that you want them to include, that you're trying to go over here in this lesson. And that way, students are going to have a really clear purpose during the review. They're going to have a reason to pay attention to your quick review because they're going to need to know what you're reviewing to complete the project. And they know that now. So that's like a really good reason for them to sit up and pay attention. So next part of the lesson, this is maybe 5 minutes, maybe less. You can review these key concepts that you want them to include in their project however you wish. I created a couple slides, one around themes, one around symbolism, using some materials I had in the lighthouse. But you can do it however you want. Maybe you make a little infographic that hits on everything you want them to hit on. Maybe you find some cool videos that just, they're like 90-second videos that explain what a theme is, explain what symbolism is, talk about the hero's journey, whatever you want to review. Now's the time. Do a little informational pass so that students are ready to incorporate those things into their projects. And now we're getting to the main bulk of this lesson, which is going to be project work time. If you are a teacher who likes to do that coffee shop vibe, like Starbucks style work time in class, and this is one of your first days of class of the year, this could be a time to introduce that concept, or you might want to wait until your students are a little more settled in your class and you've built more trust before you give them that sense of freedom. But this is just going to be workshop time now, okay? And you can decide, do you want every student creating their own open mind? You want to let them, create in pairs, but each still create their own. So everyone still really has to stay on task. That's up to you. Students can be working in Canva. Canva is a great place to work on this digitally. If Canva is a program you want to use this year, this could be a great time to introduce that. But they could also work in slides. They could work on pieces of paper. You could provide markers, flare pens, watercolors, whatever you want. This is now going to be happening for like the next 45 minutes to an hour. You could even, if you're not teaching on a block schedule, you could extend this into homework time, ask them to work on it a little bit at home, bring it back the next day to finish it. Now, once students have created their full open mind, the next step is going to be to invite them to help you create a museum gallery of the characters. This might be out in the hallway, this might be on a blank wall in your classroom. But the key thing is, instead of just putting up their open mind, ask them to create a caption for their museum gallery. Ask them to just explain their choices, what key aspects of their character they were especially trying to get across with their visual and text choices. Just a little help for viewers, right? So they're going to then tape up their open mind, tape up their museum caption below it, and now you're going to give every student some kind of little scavenger hunt sheet. And whatever it is that you are trying to review, the examples we've been using are symbol and theme, hero's journey. You're now going to invite students to go through the museum gallery and search out examples of those things in each other's work. So, for example, if your students are reading The Hunger Games and you've asked them to find a symbol, they can be going around looking at open minds for Katniss, and they may well see the mockingjay appearing all over the place. And maybe they identify the mockingjay as a symbol, or maybe they identify like the rue flower that Katniss puts around Rue as a key symbol. There are all kinds of possibilities depending on what book you're reading, depending on how students have chosen to portray symbols in their open minds. But the point is, they're now walking around, viewing each other's work, learning about the different characters from other people's perspective, and searching out those key concepts. So you've now touched on those concepts in 3 ways. You put the definitions on the assignment sheet, which was a little review. You did a quick review in class, and then at the end, you hopefully were able to reinforce those concepts as students go around with their scavenger hunt. Now, this scavenger hunt makes a perfect exit ticket. You can have every student turn in their little scavenger hunt sheet. And then when you browse through those later, you can see where they might have gaps in their understanding. So if kids still really didn't seem to understand what a theme was after the review and after creating their open minds and after doing the scavenger hunt, and they haven't correctly identified themes on their exit ticket, you might want to revisit theme soon. Okay, so now let's take a peek back at this lesson in terms of teaching takeaways. Whether you're planning a summer reading lesson or some totally other lesson, what can we learn here? One teaching takeaway I'd like to focus on today is the idea of purpose. When you introduce a project and then let students know they're going to need to understand something to be successful with it, in this case, symbolism, theme, then you give them a reason to pay attention as you review that information, in this case, those terms. I find this especially helpful when launching into big projects, like, for example, a poetry slam, where I've noticed students suddenly become a lot more interested in the craft moves that make a good poetry performance because they know they will soon be delivering a performance of their own. Same goes for play performances, essay competitions, and so many other projects that are going to have an audience out in the real world beyond myself as a teacher. Another thing I want to talk about today is the way the Open Mind Project invites students to showcase ideas through a combination of words and visuals. If you're a regular listener, you know this is a big thing for me. I believe information today is so often communicated through multiple mediums, and it's important for students to have practice with that. You can convey a lot about characters through visual imagery and colors, as well as quotations and descriptors. But it takes practice, and it's important that students understand that the point isn't for them to, say, draw this incredible shaded picture of a mockingjay that will make everyone be like, oh my gosh, that's the greatest piece of art I've ever seen. That's not the point. Instead, it's how they can communicate ideas across mediums. Sometimes in your class, the mediums may be text and audio. Maybe they'll be video and voiceover. Maybe, like the Open Mind Project, it's text and visuals. But the point is, so often communication today is about words plus something. And I think that's worth pausing to talk about with students when you introduce these types of projects. Hey, this isn't just about, coloring all the parts of your paper in a different color. This is about thinking how you communicate across mediums, because think about your life. Think about how you get information. Is it usually just text, or is there usually more to it? And if you take a little time to help students see that, then hopefully they see the purpose of assignments like this. Thanks so much for joining me today to talk about a summer reading lesson that also helps review some key concepts, whatever key concepts you're wanting to review with your students before you kick off into your first main unit of the year. Until next time, take care of yourself and stay creative. There's help for when you need print and go creativity for your classroom. There's help when you feel like all you have time to do is dash off comprehension questions, and that's just not the way you want to teach. Did you know I have a curriculum membership for creative ELA teachers? It's like the assistant you've always wished for, the curriculum you need, ready to adapt to your specific classroom. This is my 5th year running the Lighthouse, and I've learned so much from the 2,000 plus teachers who have joined me there, and it just keeps getting better. If you're a secondary ELA teacher looking for more creativity in class without your work bag following you around like a shadow, and you want a creative community that gets what you go through every day, the Lighthouse is waiting for you. This is the program where you get immediate access to curriculum across more than 30 themes, like podcasting, one-pagers, argument, choice reading, book clubs, poetry, and short stories. This is the program where you get a sub-plan library you can lean on anytime you need a day, for any reason. This is the program where you'll find a creative community waiting to cheer your wins and share fresh ideas day after day. This is the program where you'll find on-demand video workshops from leaders across our field, like Penny Kittle and John Spencer. This is the program where I share everything I create. This is the program where we go all in. Are you ready to explore how the Lighthouse can transform your teaching? Make sure you're signed up for my weekly creative teaching emails so you'll get your invitation the next time the doors open.